My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here. And today on Meet Cool People, I have an awesome gal that I met recently, had the opportunity to not only see on stage, but actually hang out, have a dinner with her, get to know her really well. This is Kerry Barrett. She is an Emmy award-winning broadcaster with more than 25 years of experience on camera. She's spoken on TEDx stages and now helps professionals, especially attorneys, master the art of speaking on camera. For those of you that are like afraid to speak on camera and still don't like staring at the silly little blue dot, this is going to help you out quite a bit. So Kerry's mission is to help lawyers transform their camera presence into a tool for authority, credibility, and growth. And with that, Kerry, thanks for coming and hanging out today.
Thank you for having me. That was a nice introduction. And we did have a lovely dinner, didn't we?
We did. Well, and
Yes.
that was the best part, because of course you were awesome on stage. You came to the Badass Business Summit, which is funny because recently I've had a lot of speakers for this show that I have met at Babs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because it was in September. We are now in November, and I'm having so many calls with so many people. It's like, okay, yeah, you're pretty cool. Why don't you come hang out? We'll talk. But it was such a good event. And you did an amazing job of teaching everybody how to feel more comfortable, the basic things that they need to do when they're on camera, whether it be getting on like a podcast like this, where you got the video side, or doing your own presentations, webinars, things like that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we went to a cool little barbecue place, which it was a lot of fun because I kept saying, hey, here's a place that's supposed to be pretty good. And everybody's like, well, we're going to go to this other place. And next thing I know, I showed up at the small little place that I suggested. And like, we took over the entire diner, which was awesome because everybody changed their mind and decided to go over there.
And it was a good choice. And I had my first ever catfish dinner.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Before, and which is weird because I lived in Texas for 3 years, and
Okay.
that's sort of a staple down there. There for me anyway. I'm based in New Jersey, so yeah. But it was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I need to try it at a different place because I tried catfish at one place, and I've only been in Texas for 3 years, so I'm still a newbie here.
Yeah.
I tried it once, and I was like, it's okay, but it was a little too.
I have heard that
like muddy is like the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's okay. Not really my favorite thing. I do need to try it another time at a different place. And then I can really make a good decision if I like it or not.
Well, you should have tried it. You should have asked for a bite of mine at the very
well, I could have tried that, I guess. But, we had just gotten to know each other. I figured it's not quite ready to be saying, hey, you want to give me a bite of that yet?
Can I try your food?
Yeah. Yeah. Now we've had a few conversations since then. So next time, I'll ask for a bite.
There you go.
So you've done a ton of stuff on the concept of looking good and presenting well on camera.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that got you into that side? I know you've been a broadcaster in the past. Tell us a little bit about, like, how did you get into that role?
So it's interesting. I was in the broadcast news industry on air for 20 years, as you mentioned, and I left in 2019 and I started my own thing. And what I originally started teaching people was sort of your classic public speaking, the being on a stage, which comes for a lot of people with a lot of baggage. Most people hate public speaking. And then I started creating videos for LinkedIn. It was really like the only thing I knew how to do in terms of marketing my business when I first started. And I started having people ask me specifically questions about how I showed up on camera. And a lot of attorneys reaching out saying, I have a video project, I need to create a video for a landing page, or I want to start a YouTube channel, or things of that nature. And they had more specific questions about the on-camera element, which, while I do still teach occasionally public speaking, I'm working with some people right now on prepping them for their TEDx talks. But it really, to use the word that we're all sick of ever since COVID, I did pivot from specifically teaching public speaking to teaching public speaking basically for the lens is what it's all about. And that really capitalized on the skills and abilities and the confidence I had developed over my 20 years in the broadcast news space. So it made sense. I was a little, I think, probably early to the market when I first started this, because in 2019, of course, it was pre pandemic and I launched right before then. And video wasn't quite as big of a thing as it is now. And so I was a little early to market, but I stuck with it. And since, of course, the pandemic, things have really picked up.
And I love that. And it's so funny because, when we think about this, like I've been doing online video, like I started with Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I was in like the first 5,000 to sign up for Skype
Oh,
originally.
yeah.
And I mean, it was a long time ago. And that was the first video platform really that people used for stuff like this. And nowadays, like when everything switched to, especially when we got hit by the plague and everybody had to stay home, for me, the tech side was the easy part. And a lot of
Yeah.
times people get stuck in that tech part of, okay, what camera do I have to have, or what microphone do I have to have? And those are the questions that like I get asked all the time. But there's a piece of it that people don't really realize, which is where you're really helping people, is that how do you present yourself on camera? Because the tech point is only goes so far. And yes, you can do better with a better camera. You can sound better with a better mic. But to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter how great the equipment is. If you can't feel comfortable talking to the little silly blue dot, I
Mhm.
always keep saying the silly little blue dot because that's where I was with it,
Yeah.
is it does make a very big difference. And I learned, like for myself, you put me on stage in front of 300 people, I don't even blink. It's like, no big deal. This is awesome. Love it. But for the longest time, it was really difficult for me to stare into a camera.
Mhm.
And even with my first podcast, that's why I didn't do a solo podcast, was
Yeah.
because of the fact that I didn't want to just talk. I wanted to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
which makes a huge difference. So what is it you're seeing with people? Like, all that said, what are you seeing with people when they're coming to you? Where are they getting stuck? And where is it that you're kind of pointing them in the right direction right out of the gate?
And well, oftentimes people do come, not always, but they do
Mhm.
come with those questions about tech, and they do come with questions about workflow and process. At the end of the day, those are relatively simple fixes. We'll
Mhm.
give you a workflow and we'll get you set up. Which, I mean, if you're creating videos for, let's just say, LinkedIn, which is where I
Right.
spend the bulk of my time, you really don't. You need your phone, and a microphone is nice to have. But
Right.
at the end of the day, really all you need is your face and a phone.
Mhm.
Um, so once you get that squared away, where I find that deeper challenges for people is exactly what you touched on, which is I'm afraid to show up, is honestly what it comes down to.
Mhm.
And there is an element that's very similar to the baggage people have that goes along with public speaking, that also presents itself when people are in front of the camera. Right? They're afraid of it.
Right.
It feels artificial. It is artificial. You've got a microphone and lights and some other stuff, and you're talking to nobody, as you referenced a little bit earlier, or often
Yep.
talking to nobody, and it feels very artificial. And that's because it is. So,
Right.
how do I've had people come to me and say, I'm perfectly fine, but put me in front of a camera. I literally had someone say this to me last week, and I mispronounced my own name. Like, that's what I get so nervous that
Right.
I can't, I don't say my own name correctly. I mean, I've had paying clients who take, you know, 3 or 4 months to finally book their first session with me, because it's so hard for them to even take that first step because they're so afraid of showing up. So
Wow.
it is it is oftentimes the deeper problem or the deeper fear that people have, and the tech and the workflow and stuff is a nice cover for getting
Right.
to the heart of things. And so it's about, I mean, you have to jump in with both feet, and you have to do the thing
Mhm.
and I drag people kicking and screaming doing the thing.
I love it. And that is so true. And it is so funny because like I've been a speaker since 2008.
Yeah.
And so for me, like at first I was terrified of speaking as well. I do have I actually grew up with a background in music, so I have a performance background, but I got out of it because I had stage fright. It's like that's
Right.
the big thing that I was always hilarious is like I was classically trained in voice. I had all the skills, everything was there except for the fact that I was terrified to get up on stage and sing.
Yeah,
And
me
so
too.
I went behind the scenes to that side of it for quite a while, many years before I got into all the geeky tech stuff. And it's so funny. People are like, how did you become a speaker? And I'm like, I still am not really sure how that happened, but you can, again, you can put me on a stage. I am perfectly fine. I will have a blast. You ain't going to find me doing karaoke though.
Yeah, no,
Totally different game.
me either. No karaoke. Actually, that's not true. I did it once and I never
Okay.
again.
Yeah, never again. I totally get that. But so what do you think is the difference? Like, I know, like you said, so many people are afraid of public speakings.
Mhm.
I think the thing is that public speaking, more people are afraid of public speaking than actually death.
Yeah.
So the joke is they would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy.
Mhm.
What is it that's different, like for people like me, where I love getting on stage, but the camera, it's taken a lot of practice, years of practice for me to get comfortable looking at the camera and recording.
Yeah.
What is it that's holding them back? Like what is that fear factor that is different than public speaking, do you think?
There's a couple of things, and there's some people who are really good on camera and are terrible or very fearful of speaking on a stage, and
Okay.
vice versa, like you. So there's not a one size fits all. This is why this happens, and this is why this happens.
Okay.
Generally speaking, though, I I almost said a rule of thumb, but it's not really a rule of thumb. There's a couple of things. So I mentioned a couple of minutes ago how the environment can feel very artificial with the
Hmm.
lights and the camera and the microphone. And so you feel like you're performing rather than necessarily talking.
Okay.
And so that's one part of it. People feel like they're being and really what that means is they feel like they're being fake, which most people don't enjoy. It feels
Hmm.
very artificial, pretentious, braggy, whatever the adjective is that they use to describe it. So that's one element. The second element is that when are we editing this?
No.
Okay, because I just lost my train of thought.
So good.
When something like that happens, they
Right.
have difficulty in recovery, and so you put them in front of this artificial environment. They're oftentimes talking to themselves. They don't
Hmm.
know what to say, and so all of that comes out in this sort of it manifests in fear and it manifests in a feeling of I mean, I guess really it feels like a performance, and
Right.
people don't
Okay.
feel authentic delivering it.
And I think that's a really good way to put it. And for me, I always look at it a little bit different because I come from the music background originally. I
Yeah.
think of it as a performance. It's all a performance.
It is
So
all
I see kind of a different perception of it. But it
you
is
are right. You are right, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I will say
uh,
what I was going to say before, and I lost my train of thought, is that for people who are good on the stage, there is a feedback loop that's immediate
yes.
when they have an audience in front of them. This is where I was going, and then my brain lost it.
Yeah, we're going to
There
talk about that in a second. Just
yeah.
keep going.
Okay, so when you're in front of an audience, if you enjoy that kind of thing and you're good on a stage, then you know they're laughing, your jokes are
Mhm.
landing, or they're pensive, or you see people, heaven forbid, like scrolling on their phone. You know, you need to up the energy or add another story, whatever. I won't
Right.
belabor it. There's a feedback loop.
Right.
When
Okay.
you're on a camera, there's none of that. I remember the first time I gave a webinar as a business owner. Mind you, I'd been on air for 20 years, so I was very comfortable speaking on a camera. But when I was giving this webinar and I couldn't see any voices and I couldn't hear any
Mhm.
voices rather or see any faces, I was about 10 minutes in and I felt my lips start to go numb and my voice started to shake because I didn't have any of that feedback that
Right.
you do when you're on a stage. And so if that can get in my head after having done that for 2 decades, it can get in anybody's head.
Anybody's head. I love that you said that because that is a really big difference. I remember when 2020 hit and we all went to Zoom, and going back to that term pivot, that was a great term for it for 20. I always find a year every time there's an economic shift, I have a word that works with it,
Yeah.
and like in 28 it were or 2008 it was evolve.
Yeah.
because we had to evolve. It was we had to do things different, but we had to shift.
Mhm.
And then in 2020, it was we had to shift fast.
Yeah.
So I call that a pivot.
Yeah.
Totally valid word.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact that you have that feedback loop, and that was a big one for me, is because like on stage I am super comfortable with that. And you're right, that feedback loop is huge.
Yeah.
I am an interactive speaker. That's something I learned early on. I'm not somebody that comes up and just does a presentation. And
Right.
if anybody's ever seen me speak, I'm a big one of, I tell them right up front, it's like, okay, by the way, this is interactive. I'm going to ask some questions and you have to answer the questions. If you don't, we're both going to be very uncomfortable and it's not going to be very fun.
Yeah.
So when I ask the question, you got to answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And then there's like, one or two people might be like, okay, you obviously didn't understand because the rest of you didn't answer the question. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we make fun of it, right? Then we just have fun with it. But I want to bring something up because you had a spot where you lost your train of thought a minute ago, and I want to bring that up for the very simple fact. I want people to see that everybody does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens to every one of us.
100%.
Yeah. So with that said, I'd like to, like, for people that are newer and they're afraid of that, because that's the biggest thing that people really, once they start, getting over the basics of it, but they're always afraid they're going to screw something up. They're going to forget. They're going to say the wrong words. The answer is yes, you're going to. We all do it.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that people should be thinking about as far as, okay, how do you recover from that? How do you shift it if it happens? Because it's going to happen. It happens to everybody. Every one of us has done it. I mean, I can say with no hesitation, I've done it at least 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are the things that people need to think about? It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just do this if it happens.
This is so interesting. One of the pillars of the TEDx talk that I just gave prior to this recording was know your outs, which is one of the fundamentals that
Okay.
I built my broadcasting career on. And in a podcast, on stage, in front of a camera, know your outs means the same thing that it means in life, which is how to gracefully get out of a situation when things go sideways or when they do go wrong. And as you mentioned, they always do. So, I mean, it
Right.
depends a little bit on the situation.
Okay.
But I have developed a series of, and I didn't happen to use one in this particular moment, but a series of almost like one-liners that I keep in my back pocket that I can deploy when I need. So
Mhm.
that especially when I was first starting speaking on a stage or speaking in front of the camera, I didn't have those. And it was very clear. I mean, I share a story quite often about how on my very first live shot, when I was a reporter, I was out in the field and the anchors were back in the studio and they were sending it out to me. I completely forgot what it was that I was going to say. And I didn't have any outs. I had nothing planned. And
Right.
because of that, I went on this long, rambling tirade that most of what I said was factually inaccurate. And so I always have now a handful of things that I can use if I need to. But at the end of the day, don't try and fake your way out of it. If you need to buy a little time by using one of those phrases so you can organize your thoughts and get back
Mhm.
to things, then do that. Me, in that moment, I could not for the life of me remember what I was going to say. And I knew that saying, well, let me put it this way, or what I'm trying to say is this, wasn't going to buy me the time that I needed because it was completely gone. So I just
Right.
acknowledge that you have lost your train of thought or that you forget what you were going to say, and then move on. Don't
Mhm.
spend a lot of time stumbling all over yourself to apologize because you're only drawing more attention to the fact that you screwed things up. So acknowledge it, apologize if necessary, and then move on. And if it comes back to you and it makes sense to interject and state whatever it was that you were going to, go for it. It made sense in the course of our conversation because we're
Right.
centered on this topic.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I love that you put that because it is, even for me, I've had that happen before where all of a sudden I just go this train of thought. I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
I just forgot what I was going to say. We'll come back to that one later. Let's talk about this instead. And and the fun thing about it is if you can laugh about it and have fun with it, people are cool with it.
Yeah.
I've also had times that I like my my out is basically, you know what? Actually, I have something else I want to share with you that wasn't really planned here, but I think it's really appropriate right here.
Yeah.
And then I'll take a little sidetrack somewhere.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
I do a thing sometimes where, let's say I have 3 points that I want to make, and I'll say, point 1 is blah, 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 point 2, blah, 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 blah. And if I miss point 3, I'll
Mhm.
say, see point 1 and 2. That's point 3, like double back. And I
Yep.
saw somebody else do this on stage, and I'll demonstrate here. This guy was up on stage, he was
Mhm.
speaking, and he had notes with him on the podium, but he had stepped away from the podium and he had lost his train of thought. He walked back to the podium. He picked up his papers. He looked at them for a while, and then he jokingly flipped them over. He's like, that's what went wrong. I was looking at my notes upside down, right? And then he went
Oh,
on,
that's funny.
bought himself a little bit of time. It
Yeah.
was funny. It endeared him to the audience. Everybody had a little bit of giggle, not at him, but with him. And
Mhm.
the show must go on. That's what
Right.
it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is such a big thing is if you can have fun with it,
Yeah.
joke about it if you need to. As long as you
Nobody
get back, yeah, nobody really cares that much, honestly.
nobody really cares. Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna die. You're not a
Yeah.
brain surgeon. You didn't forget where the scalpel needs to go. Like, the
You're right.
stakes, you might feel like the stakes are very, very high and everything is gonna crumble if you forget something or you do something wrong. But the reality of it is that it's not.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the mistakes are so minor that they don't even bear the need for an apology.
Yeah.
They're forgotten 30 seconds later by the audience.
Right. No, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So, with all that said, with everything we talked about so far, if somebody's not doing video, they know they should be doing video. If you don't know we should be doing video, we're telling you right now, you should be doing video.
Yeah.
Where should they be starting? Like, what is, especially in, like, we've got doing webinars, we've got getting on stage and stuff like that, but where should they doing, if they're doing their own stuff and trying to implement a video strategy into their marketing and their positioning, where should they start?
Such a good question. The easiest thing to do is not to get caught up in the logistics of what you need. If you have a smartphone that was made in like the last, 7 years,
Right.
you have all the gear that you need.
Right.
Face a window, put your phone on something stable, a tripod, a window ledge, whatever it is. Look into the camera and talk. I would suggest trying to start with one video a week,
Okay.
and you can make it, let's say you want to post it every Tuesday. Maybe it's a Teach It Tuesday. You've got a tip or a trick, or it's a FAQ that a frequently asked question that you get from clients or potential clients. And on Tuesdays or whenever it is, you answer those sorts of questions. And literally, you don't have to do anything other than record into your phone. I
Mhm.
I use the editing app in your phone. You don't even have to have an editing app. Trim off a little bit of the beginning where you're, going to hit record or before you
Right.
start talking. Trim off the end where you're going to hit pause and load it onto LinkedIn. You are good to go. And that is the easiest place to start. Now, if you are absolutely terrified of speaking on camera, and I even sometimes tell clients that I work with who are still terrified before we start working together, the way that you can dip your toe in the water is to just open up your phone and narrate part of your day. It can be 30 seconds. It can be you walking down the stairs to get your first cup of coffee. It could be you making dinner. It could be you getting ready for a podcast recording. Just
Right.
narrate 30 seconds of your day into the camera to start getting used to speaking into the lens in a very low stakes environment. And then go back and watch and find one thing that you know you need to work on. Maybe it's energy, maybe it's your eye contact is not the greatest, whatever it is. And then focus on that one thing and work on that until you feel like you have your arms around it. You won't have
Got
it
it.
down perfect, but if you try and work on, everything that you need to fix all at once, you generally won't make that much progress in any of them. And
Yeah.
then it's very easy to get frustrated. It's very easy to fall off the wagon and stop the creation process. So don't overwhelm yourself. I guess that's it at the end of the day. Keep it incredibly simple when you start. Legitimately, you need your face, your phone, and a voice, and that's all you need to get started.
Right. I love that. And it's, so that's one of the things, like for me, I don't even, and this is, my little spot on here is me holding the phone, or whether it's even on a
Right
tripod
on.
looking at
Yeah.
it. I have a harder time with that I do recording here on my desktop. And
Yeah.
so I did it differently. I have it set up. Obviously I have the fancy green screen and all the kind of
Yeah.
stuff because I'm a geek, and, the
Love it.
tech part's easy for me. That's a simple thing. But I go through it. I'm like, okay, I need to record I want to start putting more videos out there.
Mhm.
And my goal is I'm going to record a 1 minute video that I'm teaching something.
Yeah.
And I know that it might go a little over, but
Yeah.
I got a timer for 1 minute to keep me on track. And I just keep doing it. And when I first did it, and the reason I'm sharing this is so you can see where this goes. When I first started doing this, again, terrified, staring at the camera because I had no interaction.
Yeah.
And it took me probably 20 tries to get my first 1 minute video done right.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I'm like, okay, I think that one was okay. And so I'm like, okay, next topic. And I did it again. And I think it took 18 times that time.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it was, an hour, I'd only get, maybe 3 videos done.
Right. 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 You 3 1 minute videos. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now I can take what if I go through and I'll do my idea generation. So I'll have my list of topics I want to talk about, and I record them back to back.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll take multiple effects or multiple times, but it usually takes me no more than 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And when I get to that point, I'm getting to the point now where I'll get like 22 videos recorded, uploaded, and tasks assigned to my team to create the captions and stuff for them
Yeah.
in 1 hour.
That's awesome. Very cool.
But
That's
it took
impressive.
Yeah, well, thank you, but it took practice to get that. That first time, I was
Yep.
excited I got 3 silly, stupid videos done in that hour, and that
Yeah.
didn't include the part of actually assigning it to my guys to do the editing part. It was just to get them recorded. So it just takes
Well,
time.
it takes time, and it's amazing that you did it. Sometimes you'll hear people say, "Well, I'm not confident enough to do it." And confidence isn't going to show up on your door like an Uber. You can't order it and it
Right.
suddenly arrives, and then magically you're able to do the thing. You have to do the things that you did in order to get from point A to
Mhm.
point B. And that's
Yeah.
amazing that you didn't let it discourage you or knock you off the rails when it came to creation. And now would you say you're comfortable with it?
Yeah, it's funny, I still don't like it,
Yeah.
but I'm like, "You know what? It needs to be done, I'm gonna do it." And so I do it, and at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, good. I got 22 more done. I don't have to think about it again for a while.
Right.
I said, pass it off. I'm done at that point because I still don't like doing it. I would much rather have a conversation like this,
Yeah.
or, go speak on stage or whatever. I'll take that all day long versus sitting here recording 1 minute videos by myself.
Right. 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 Right.
But it's been such a powerful tool for me that I see the value in it, and I've seen how it's helped me out. And again, I'm not grabbing my phone and, walking down the street doing that because I'd probably trip and fall and everybody'd laugh at me. But I figured out what worked for me. And that's the thing that for me, I always tell people, take what you're learning, like listen to what Kerry and I are both saying here, and practice either one. Try both of them, see what works for you, because you might even find something different that works better
Yeah.
for you. You know,
Absolutely. But find the thing. That's
yeah.
that's the bottom line.
Find the thing. I love it. That is awesome. Very cool. So we are getting to the top of the hour here, and I knew we were going to have a lot of fun with this, and it flew by so fast. Last couple questions that I have for you before we do those, are there any last minute nuggets of wisdom that you want to share with everybody before we close out?
Last minute nuggets of wisdom. I will repeat what I said before. Uh, you have to do the thing.
Yeah.
Don't let all the other logistics of creation get in the way. Just take a minute a day and start practicing. Let's keep the overwhelm to a minimum. A minute a day, low stakes, nobody's seeing it but you.
Mhm.
That is the key to getting started. I might be talking myself out of clients at this stage of the game. Like, That's really what you have to do to get started. I'll hold your feet to the fire if you need me to, but if you're going to start this on your own, that's all you need to start with. Keep
Right.
it simple. Yep.
I love it. Awesome. Cool. Okay. And by the way, we're going to, we'll definitely, the last question we will have will be how people get a hold of you. Cause I know you've got, I want you to talk about this. I know you've got some videos that you put out there as sharing tips, tricks, nuggets, and stuff like that. And you can work with some people and everything. So we'll share that in just a second. That's always the last question. But before that, one of the things I always ask every one of my guests is, what do the words meet cool people mean to you?
Yeah. I have been meeting cool people my entire life as a result specifically of my time in the broadcast news world, celebrities and politicians and presidents and CEOs. And meet cool people for me usually means meeting someone that has a new perspective or a new way of thinking that challenges what I may believe. It doesn't need to be controversial. It doesn't need to be political, but meeting cool people usually means learning new things.
Awesome. I love it. Very, very cool. Well, so with that said, what is the best way that people can get a hold of you? I know you've got some coaching that you do. I know you have great training that you do. Obviously, LinkedIn is an awesome way for people to see all the fun stuff you're doing. How can people get a hold of you?
Usually it's finding me. My website at this point is going through a bit of a rebrand, so I would not go there. Go to my LinkedIn, Kerry Barrett, and you can DM me. You can book a free consult call there. Certainly, I post content every day that you can learn from. If you want to reach out to me directly, though, feel free to email me. It's Kerry@kerrybarrett.com.
Awesome. Love it. And just, I think it's always funny. Everybody who comes on the show, their website is in or doing a revamp at the point.
Yeah.
Like every one of them. I'm like, I always get them at that point. It's always entertaining. No, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Kerry. This has been fun. I knew it was going to be, because like I said, you and I had a great dinner chatting, and then we've had multiple calls since then and gotten to know each other really well. And I knew you were going to share some great wisdom today. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out.
Well, thank you for having me. This was great. You're a fantastic host.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. And everybody else, get out there. Have an amazing, amazing week. If there's anything I can do to help you out or reach out, let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.